Imagine searching for someone you love for 5 days with no answers. Every hour passes, the fear grows, and you hope still. As you replay the last conversation, the last moments you had with them, the last chance to notice something that might have gone wrong. For 5 days, Kurt Sova was missing. His friends and family searched for him only to be found in a ravine. But what's disturbing about this case is he was alive for 4 of those 5 days he was missing.
I'm Shreya.
I'm Andrew.
And I'm Logan.
And this is in remembrance of Kurt Sova.
This presentation is for educational purposes. We are not accusing anyone or any individual of committing this crime. All information is presented is based on this case details, evidence, and possible investigation theories.
So who was he? He was 17 years old. He was a junior in high school, and he'd fit in perfectly like anyone else in this room. But that doesn't take away from how special he was as a person and the impact he had on other people's lives. Some things about him is that he was 5'10" to 6 foot, 17 years old, and he had a relatively slim build. Some of his personality described by his family was that he was smart and driven, never got into serious trouble, and never really was out of character, and he was very friendly with strangers and always had good connections with people. A quote from his older brother, Kevin, that I think accurately represents who he was as a person is, "Kurt was our little comedian. We'd call him Mouse when he was little because he would make a squeaking noise that would make everybody laugh."
Unfortunately, on the day of October 23rd, 1981, it started off like no other day for Kurt. He ended up skipping school for the first time ever, according to his family, on a Friday, spent the entire day at his alleged girlfriend's house with his friend Samuel Carroll, and later that day went to a house party for Halloween. Then at around 10-11 p.m., he was sent outside for being intoxicated, falling over, probably being loud. Samuel takes him outside for some fresh air, but before he goes inside, he takes one last look at his friend to go get his jacket, and when he comes back out, Kurt's gone. Later, on the 24th, that early morning, it was the first day Kurt had been gone overnight. So his parents, with distress, jump into action. They get together small searches, they look around, there's absolutely no trace of Kurt. Dorothy Sova, his mother, receives a phone call from Debbie Sams, the woman who hosts the house party earlier that week. She tells her that there's probably someone in the basement. The bed looks kind of disturbed, so she goes over, they look, but there's no one there. On the 28th, 5 days after Kurt originally goes missing, he's found fists up, clenched, legs put together in a Christ-like position in a field. Nothing else.
So where exactly was he? As described before, the police report said that he was found in a ravine, but in the picture above, it was less a ravine and more of a field. That pool of water that you see there is where he was found, roughly 2 inches tall, where he was also not necessarily submerged, but he was laying in it. On the bottom is an AI recreation from the police force to demonstrate how he was positioned during the crime.
This is the party house, the gas station that we can guess that they bought the alcohol from is a little bit right next to the party house off to the left, and then right where the body was found is up on that top arrow right at that yellow dot.
So some theories about what may have happened. Now, as the disclaimer before said, that we are not accusing anyone, but this may not necessarily even be a homicide, but a tragic accident. So one of our theories is that when he was taken outside, he had wandered off. He was intoxicated, and he wandered off for whatever reason. Potentially, he could have passed out due to exhaustion, considering it was a 5-day search, and he was found roughly 4 days in. Or that's when he had died, unfortunately. So if he had been wandering around for 3 days, it is possible that he passed out in that field, in that pool of water, where the chill of the October nights could have gotten to him, considering he was only in a t-shirt and shorts. Now, another theory
is the blood alcohol content. Obviously, he was intoxicated, like we said earlier, at a party, so even though his blood alcohol content was only a 0.11, that's all of the alcohol after his body had metabolized it all during those 4 days. He could have been more intoxicated when he left that house earlier that week. However, the legal standard of being intoxicated being only a 0.08 and him standing at a 0.11, as we see right there, the lethal blood alcohol content being significantly higher means that it couldn't have inherently led to his death. If anything, it could have been a contributing factor, or maybe why he ended up passing out earlier that day.
So another theory that kind of goes with that is rhabdomyolysis. It is the short-term heavy intoxication that can cause a person to remain in one position for a long time, which also can lead to the death of muscles and tissue or necrosis. So here's some newspaper clippings that were taken during 1981. Now, unfortunately, it never went outside of this. His case did not get a lot of recognition, and because of how Shreya will talk about in a minute, there was some mess-ups within the police force, and this did not get treated with the respect it deserved.
Thankfully, however, when reopened in 2019 with the help of Tiffin University students, John Majoy, the chief of police in Cuyahoga County, when reopening it, brought it to something called CrimeCon, which is basically something like a crowd solve. Essentially what it is opening a case up to the public, people like us, students, people like everyone around us, and professionals re-looking and re-examining the cases like it's a closed case. Even though the case is right now open, meaning that we can't get a lot of documentation, they were given stacks upon files of testimony, victim statements, and everything. And as we see on the left, that is the leading theory, essentially kind of going with our first theory of he passed out, they got scared because he was underage and drunk. They dragged his body out after he died, and they found him there. The middle right there, because it happened in 2020, some of these things have been acted upon by the chief of police and people who have been looking into the case. And then on the right, we have other theories proposed by attendees. But essentially, overall, because of the initial investigation and because of the lack of coordination between the investigation, plus the fact that the police force at the time was corrupt in a sense that the chief of police was then indicted on drug charges, there are also some of these theories that have to do with the fact that there was an illegal drug ring. Maybe Kurt found out while walking around that day and essentially was taken out through that.
We want to spend a special thanks to Ms. Goldberg. She helped us open this case, give us all the contacts that we needed. Without her, we wouldn't have been in the right direction at all. Chief Majoy, he was a great help too. He gave us as many files that he could. And then Mr. Roderick, he helped us go deeper into the case, and Mr. Lewis also helped us.
Crime Stoppers of Cuyahoga County are offering a $5,000 reward for information leading up to an arrest. The number is right there. And the Newburgh's Police Department, headed by Chief John Majoy, who reopened the case around 6 years ago now, their tip line is right there. And then if you have any information absolutely regarding the case of Kurt Sova, please feel free to contact us, because at the end of the day, he was a kid, just like all three of us standing up here, 17 years old, wanting to go have fun with his friends, and his case doesn't mean that it should be over.
Any questions?
I might have missed this, but what was the actual cause of death that the police found, either from an autopsy that you all or the newspaper reporting?
On the police report, it was instantaneous physiological death, which means he died.
Essentially, it's like the grown-up version of SIDS, sudden infant death syndrome. Basically, his body just stopped working. The autopsy report wasn't very thorough, and neither was the coroner's report. We only got the brief autopsy report. We didn't actually get the entire autopsy because it, again, is an open case. However, the coroner's report just said that he died, and then it was later ruled an accidental because he couldn't have died with that much in his system.
And other than the blood alcohol content, there were no scratches, there were no bruising, his clothes weren't torn up. He was missing a shoe, but other than that, his body was in very good condition.
Yeah, so during that coroner's report, basically, they stated that rigor mortis had only set in with his jaw and then a couple other parts of his body. Essentially, they dated back to him actually passing away around 36 to 24 hours before his body was found. So kind of giving like that timeline 5 days after he was found. So he would have died in that 3 to 4 day mark.
So, since he was found dead 4 or 5 days later, was that area often frequented by other people, or was it potentially he was taken somewhere else and then just left there?
I'm glad you brought that up. The family themselves searched that area multiple times at the beginning of the search, and then on the 5th day where they researched it, his body had appeared in a spot that he was not initially there before.
Kind of going off that, was there any DNA on his body if he just appeared there after multiple searches?
So the police investigation, like I just said a couple minutes ago, was extremely not thorough. They weren't their first thing on their mind wasn't to finish the case. It wasn't to bring attention to the case. You saw the newspaper clippings up there. That was kind of all it kind of really got. And they had other things to worry about. So they didn't really give the case the attention it deserved. So again, the coroner, the autopsy report, the police reports, all of them are very jumbled. They aren't very thorough at all. So even if there was DNA on him, they didn't collect any.
It was also 1981.
You guys said that the host of the party had, I believe it was contacted Kurt's family and said that the bed had looked disturbed. Had they never looked at it before that point in time?
So the host of the party, she not only retracted that statement after they came, she also told the police originally that Kurt was never there until a pizza delivery driver came and said, hey, we saw him in there. So overall, there was not very thorough investigation, a lot of conflicting statements, and nothing was ever really followed up on because, again, the case wasn't really at the front of the police department's mind, unfortunately.
Thank you. It was easy. I was looking easy.